What happened? Joyce versus Filip Hrgovic has just wrapped up in a heavyweight slugfest, with Joyce suffering his fourth loss in his last five fights. So we need to talk about Joyce versus Hrgovic.
So another loss in Joyce's heavyweight run. It seems like he wanted to come back. He wanted to make another run of the title. And if you know Joyce, he was on a monstrous tear early on to his heavyweight career as a pro. Obviously, he had the Olympic background, the amateur experience, and as a pro, he was just dominating up and coming guys like Daniel Dubois, giving him his first ever loss in the ring, pretty much fracturing Dubois' orbital, stopping him in crushing fashion, where Joyce would literally just go face first and walk through all of these shots his opponents would give, and he would just come out the better end of it, start breaking them down. The longer the fight goes, he would get to his opponents, whether it was Daniel Dubois, whether it was Carlos Takam, whether it was Christian Hammer, and even Joseph Parker. So he was on a tear up until 2023, when he finally took his first loss at the hands of Zhilei Zhang, got stopped by him in a rematch, and since then it's been downhill. And booking this Hergovich fight, a lot of people didn't expect Joyce to come back in top form, and once again, kind of just putting that stamp on what is the downfall of Joyce's career at heavyweight. He takes another loss, not in devastating fashion, but still a loss to a guy that just a couple years ago he was definitely ahead in the heavyweight ladder.
Yeah, the decline for Joyce has definitely been very severe. After his rise, having this sudden downturn and losing to a guy that he beat in the amateurs just isn't the best look, especially for this being really Joyce's last chance at making a run. And in this fight, we saw Joyce, a lot of the familiar attributes of him. We know he's not the fastest guy. We know he doesn't have the greatest footwork, and he would rely on his chin to take the shots and eventually wear the guys down and knock them out. But here, Filip Hrgovic was the guy landing all the shots on Joyce, landing clean many times. And as much as Joyce has been knocked out and hurt in recent fights, and many thinking his chin has been completely gone, he did take a bunch of devastating shots in this fight, and it managed to hold up. But there are other aspects too to his game. He wasn't able to land any power shots really to even hurt Hergovich. And although the output was fairly similar between both the guys, Joyce showing that he still has some stuff left in the tank, trying to land some bombs. Hergovich was landing the way more precise shots, the more powerful shots, and that's what won him the fight essentially. Joyce was really not able to land anything clean on Hergovich. He would pressure and walk him down from time to time in the fight, but whenever he had him against the ropes, it didn't seem like he was really able to get off his primary shot selection properly. And for Joyce's future, if he's not able to beat the likes of Filip Hrgovic, who is a good fighter, but it's not like he's the elite of the elite in the division, it's honestly just not looking great for Joyce's career in the future. He's much older now. He's already 39 on a two-fight losing streak. It's just hard to say what Joyce will really be able to do still. For his style, he just takes so much damage in his fights. His chin is always open. He's not evasive. He's not elusive at all. He's just there to get hit, and we've seen him take so much substantial damage in his career. And if he's not going to make a run for a title shot or can't beat the elite, what's the point of him really going in there at this age and taking so much damage to his chin, and to which it could even be devastating to him later on in his life? Obviously, I'm sure there could still be some decent fights for him to be made in the UK. He was originally supposed to fight Dillian White before Filip Hrgovic came in on short notice. But regardless, it's just tough looks for Joyce, and with the style he has, it's not looking too good in the future.
Yeah, as Joyce started to settle in, he started to get a little bit more comfortable. Obviously, Hergovich on short notice, stepping in for Dillian White. He wasn't really fully prepared with a full training camp with weeks and weeks of preparation, so that gas tank wasn't really up to par. Joyce was starting to take over towards those middle rounds, but then Hergovich had a kind of second win and turned the tides back around in those later rounds, as the accumulation of the damage and the power punches he was landing on Joyce was taking its toll. Joyce was really not able to get too much off. He did cut Hergovich pretty early on, and it was a relatively close competitive fight for a couple of those rounds, but we just saw Hergovich with the more effective punches, the big straight rights. Joyce was trying to shoulder roll, trying to slip the power shots of Hergovich, but he just a lot of times couldn't get away from the big shots. And this was a big bounce back for Hergovich too, after taking his first loss against Daniel Dubois in pretty devastating fashion, having success early again in that fight against Dubois, then slowing down and Dubois taking over. The accumulation of punches stopping Hergovich. This is a good rebuild process. He's still 32 years old. He has time to work his way through his career at the heavyweight division. A lot of the top guys are either a lot older now or are starting to be on a little bit of a decline, like the AJs, the Furies, the Wilders, even Usyk is a little bit older and 38 years old now. So it's not like he's completely out because he lost to one guy in Daniel Dubois. Dubois also is at the top of the heavyweight division along with the likes of Joseph Parker. Hrgovic definitely needed a great win here, and this was a great bounce back for him. And for Joe Joyce, it's tough to see him just continuously losing to worse and worse opposition on paper. Going from beating Joseph Parker to then losing to Zhilei Zhang to then losing to Derek Chisora to now losing to Hergovich. It's not like these guys aren't elite heavyweights or real contenders, because he's still going in there with the Wolves. He's still going in there with the Chisoras, with the Hergoviches, even coming off a loss. So you got to commend it. He was even trying to get in there with Dillian White. So he's looking for the big fights. He doesn't have much time left, but this time it just did not go his way whatsoever. Hrgovic was sticking him with that right hand, those left hooks, and Joyce wasn't really able to get off anything effective in this fight.
And now Joe Joyce is just another one of these UK heavyweights to recently have fallen a bit. We've seen Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua both lose to Alexander Usyk, and now Joe Joyce being on his down run. A few of them are still doing well. Daniel Dubois recently finding most of his success, becoming a champion. And even Derek Chisora is still having an old man rise, still being in the scene, fighting some decent guys and winning. And he was actually supposed to be in shot next to fight against Daniel Dubois, which would be crazy. But a lot of these UK heavyweights who were such well-known names and were really controlling the scene. Tyson Fury was on top of the world, the lineal champion. Anthony Joshua getting all the big crowds and all the attention, fighting these guys, having a good resume at heavyweight, kind of carrying the scene for a while. And Joe Joyce was really seen as a guy who was an exciting figure in the scene. Many people were looking for him to make a big rise to the top. He was knocking out everyone. Out of his 16 wins, 15 are KOs. You know what you're getting when you see Joe Joyce fight. But again, that style is just so unsustainable, especially at heavyweight where these guys crack like crazy. Eventually, if you're just eating punches and your chin is out there, you're gonna fall. And once you're older and not able to sustain as much and your speed goes, even though he still probably has good amount of power, he doesn't have the footwork, he doesn't have the technique, and plus his chin is in the air. There's only so much you can rely on your power. And when you're going against a guy like Filip Hrgovic, who is only 32 and is still able to move around you and is able to land technical, precise shots on you, it's hard for Joyce in that fight to really come alive and put together that many things that would win him the rounds or even get a KO there. And I think that's what we mainly saw as the reason he wasn't able to win. Although he was putting out good amount of output, good amount of volume, he wasn't able to really land anything that was that substantial enough to either sway the judges or even sway the fight.
Yeah, in my opinion, I don't really see what's left for the Juggernaut. At this point, 39 years old, you're not going to get any better. You're not going to get any fresher, any stronger, or be able to beat these guys. If you can't beat Hergovich on short notice after having a full camp, you can't beat Derek Chisora, you can't beat the likes of Zhilei Zhang, who was just all wrong for him. It's just tough to see what he could do. He could still, I guess, continue and have some fun, exciting fights in the UK heavyweight scene, but the accumulation of damage is kind of just tough to see, because at one point, Joyce was one of the best up-and-coming UK heavyweights in the world. He is 39 years old now. Typically at heavyweight, that is a little bit more normal than any other weight class to at least be thriving at this age. Even like you said, Derek Chisora is kind of having a resurgence in his career now at the point that he's in, and he's been in so many wars. He's been in a lot of tough fights, still beating the likes of Otto Wallin, beating Joe Joyce, etc. But for Joyce, his style just really isn't sustainable. I don't see how much longer he can be doing this and keep taking these kind of shots without eventually start going down more and more like he did against Zhilei Zhang. But for Hrgovic, a great win on his resume. He now has a win on paper against Zhilei Zhang, obviously a win over Joe Joyce now, and looking to rebound and get into that heavyweight mix. I could see him in the next couple of years still being a problem for the future heavyweights, but he did kind of go to war with Joe Joyce a little bit, took some shots himself. He's going to need some time off. This was a slugfest. Both guys show heart, they showed grit, but for Joe Joyce, it's going to be tough to see what he does next. In my opinion, I'd say right now the best option is probably just to retire. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below on Hergovich versus Joyce. And if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and check out the video on screen on the problem with Deontay Wilder's next fight.